new A110 is a love letter to driving, and a car unlike any other on the market. Yes, the engine is from a Renault and the infotainment system looks all too familiar, but in a time when every manufacturer is desperately trying to cover every market segment, Alpine manages to feel fresh and provide an experience nothing else can. Now, I'm no racing driver, so there is no point in me trying to gauge the car's performance or limit handling. Oh, and there is something else. I can't legally drive it. I was supposed to, but then the insurance turned around and said I need to wait 2 months until I'm 21, and then it'll be fine. But until then, well, I can't do anything here, so I need a replacement. Nick? Meet Nick. He's Italian, he drinks red wine by the barrel, and builds race cars for a living. Yeah, he will do as a driver for today. Meanwhile, I will focus on something I know a thing or two about. The thing that makes this car so special, its character and place in the market, and for that we need to take a quick look at this beauty. A 1973 Alpine A110. Light, beautiful, fast for its day, with a remarkable racing heritage. But most of all, it's a car that fills anyone around it with passion and love for driving. To really understand this passion, we need to take a look at Alpine's founder, John Rédélé, a businessman, a pioneer and a gentleman racer. You could say Rédélé had motorsport and Renault in his blood, as his father was a mechanic for the Renault Grand Prix squad in the 1920s, and later set up a Renault dealership in Dieppe. In 1947, Rédélé took over his dad's dealership and became the youngest Renault dealer in France at the age of 25. By 1950, Rédélé was out rallying in the tiny Renault 4CV. He said that racing is the best way to test production cars, and victory is the best sales tool. Basically the French version of win on Sunday and sell on Monday. Rédélé started out pretty big, entering the Monte Carlo rally in 1950, but let's just say he didn't get very far. On the third, he entered his home rally, Rally de Dieppe, later the same year, and won it outright. It's also a good point to mention that he was doing most of this while wearing a shirt and a tie, which is why we call him the gentleman racer. Well, at least I will call him that because it's freaking cool. Over the next few years, Rédélé updated his 4CV quite extensively with new bodywork, engine, suspension, and took it to Rally Mont Blanc, Monte Carlo Rally again, Mille Miglia, winning some, getting podiums other places, but most of all he took a win at the Alpine Rally in 1954. This is where Alpine name comes from, and this is the character which identifies the brands, then and now. Rédélé said so himself: "I thoroughly enjoyed crossing the Alps in my Renault 4CV, and that gave me the idea of calling my future cars Alpines. It was important to me that my customers experience that same driving pleasure at the wheel of the car I wanted to build." In 1955, Rédélé finally set up Alpine and introduced the Alpine A110, a fiberglass-bodied coupe based on the 4CV with a weight of just 540 kilos. That's about half of a modern Fiesta. It was reasonably quick, even with 4CV's tiny 23 horsepower engine. And then, when that engine was tuned to 43 horsepower, mated to a special designed 5-speed gearbox, and a tuned suspension setup, it was enough for the A106 to score a podium and win its class at the Mille Miglia. In 1957 came the A108. It was pretty great, weighing just around 500 kilos in competition spec, and sporting way more powerful Gordini-tuned engines. But really, it was just a stepping stone between the A106 and what we were waiting for. A110 to Alpine is what Teen Spirit is to Nirvana. Yeah, Alpine made cars before and after the A110, but whenever someone hears or thinks Alpine, they automatically imagine the A110. Despite debuting in the early 60s, A110 won most of its fame in the early 70s. In 1971, it won a majority of the European rally events, including Rally Monte Carlo, and secured the international championship from manufacturers. In 1973, Renault bought out Alpine and almost immediately sent it to the inaugural World Rally Championship. A110 won 6 out of 13 events and secured the first ever World Rally Championship, beating the likes of Porsche, Lancia and Ford Cazé in the process. But as impressive as Alpine's racing track record is, being on gravel or track, oh yeah, Alpine helped Renault win Le Mans outright in 1978 and scored numerous class wins in endurance racing, but that's a story for another day. With Alpines, it's not about their wins and success that makes them special, it's about how they got there. And I know I will sound like a teenager's Tumblr post, but I have to say this. It's not about a destination, it's about the journey in this case. People love Alpine for the same reason they loved stories like Brown GP or Brabham. It's the perfect automotive fairy tale. Alright, but what does it all have to do with the modern A110? Well, everything really. Both new and old A110s share the same character and spirit. They aren't cars designed to fill a certain market or to directly compete with any other car. No, they are both cars designed by visionaries who wanted to build exactly this car. A car you can enjoy driving, whoever you are and whatever you do with it. The new A110 isn't a hardcore tractor, it's just a Lotus or Arilatum or Cayman GT4 for that matter. But neither is a typical modern sports car such as the Porsche Cayman, Audi TT or, well, the new Supra. I'm not equipped to comment too much on them, but those are all cars you can feel were designed with the finance and marketing departments on hand. And crucially are some 300 kilograms heavier than the Alpine. But when it comes to driving dynamics, I feel like I'm a bit out of my depth until I get to drive the car. So let's go back to the Alpine's character. The A110, just like its creator, is a bit of a gentleman racer, ready to wine and dine on the Friday eve and hit the track, a mountain road or even take a road trip to the mountain road the very next morning, whilst making whoever's driving it feel as though they were taking on the Monte Carlo Rally. This is what makes the A110 different from most other performance cars out there. You can enjoy it almost anywhere, doing almost anything. I can't honestly say much more about it until I get to drive one, so until then I will leave you with people who drive Alpines for decades and have forgotten more about them than I will ever remember.
My name's Tony Gomi. I have had Alpine since 1983.
I'm Corrine and I drive a 2018 A110.
I'm John. I drive a 1973 Renault Alpine A110 V85 1300.
I'm Andy Owlam. I'm lucky enough to have an Alpine A110 of the 1970s vintage.
I've had about 10 of them. I've got 4 now, including the one I'm sitting in. I have another car here which I compete in, and I've got 2 others in Spain which I compete in hill climbs. Why Alpines? I'm half French, and when I was in France in the late 60s I fell in love with the R8 Gordini, and I have had 2 of those. I still have one. And the next step after the R8 Gordini is an Alpine. So my first one was a French one in 1983, and I've gone on since then.
I've liked A110s since I was a teenager, holidaying in France and on the continent with my parents. I always enjoyed seeing them. I think they're beautiful looking cars, and we had an opportunity to purchase one in 1996, and fate took over.
John introduced me to them when we met, and I agreed they are such lovely little cars. And when they announced that Alpine was going to start making them again, it was a no-brainer. We had to have one.
I used to go and watch the RAC round Britain Rally. It's the days when there were the Lancia Stratos screaming through the forest. My late wife and I used to go and watch them going past, and we were convinced that Bjorn Boldegard actually recognised us. We used to hanging out over the fence to wave at him as he goes past, and we used to get flashy headlights. And suddenly these other things started to do better than the Stratos, and they were Alpine owners. Where were they? Looking to buy a company car for our new business, and the Alpine was everything that was wonderful. It was way, way outside our budget. It wasn't really until I started to get involved in motorsport we started to see Alpines again.
You feel every bump that you go over, but it's very responsive. The steering is very direct, and you just end up with a smile on your face. And that's the whole point of the car, is the smile on the face.
And I'd say it's the same with the new car, in a different way. It's, for me, I get in it and I start grinning. It's the happiest I've been driving. It's like driving a go-kart. It goes where you point it and it stays on the road. Pretty much whatever you do to it so far, it's just an absolute joy.
When I'm driving it on the open road in the mountains, it's exhilarating. On the road in the crowded southeast of England, it's not fun at all. It's a car which was designed for small roads, mountain roads, and there it's exhilarating, as I said. Charismatic. It's got so much character. It's not an easy car to drive, but it's challenging, and when you get it right, it's great fun.
It's handled well and you feel confident, and let's say that you put on an Alpine, you don't get into it, you just bring it around you, you snuggle into it. It's really compact. And I think a car that's like that flatters the driver. You feel better even though you may not actually be better. I used to watch the rallycross in the 60s, 70s, early 70s. I used to take my Mini out and fling it around a few local roundabouts. I felt like I could be a Jerry Marshall. I could be a Jerry Marshall if I really tried. Lost a few kilos. In the real world, I probably will never be as good as that. But it makes you feel good. That's why Go Fastest Drives works, because you feel better.
It's the drivability, the fact that provided you don't lift off in the middle of a corner, the way the original corners, you just point it in, keep your foot down, and it will go round the corner. Lift your foot in the middle of a corner and you are more likely to end up outside of the corner.
I think again, it's actually showing how they are so similar, even though they are years apart. The new one it goes where you point it, and that is fantastic. But it's one of the most comfortable cars I've driven. Doing a very long journey in it, you don't get tired. You come out the other end sort of fresh, happy, still with that grin on your face.
They have pedigree. They're designed by one man, by one company. They're made in his factory. He did as much as he could. He bought bits where he had to buy bits where he couldn't buy them off the peg. He made them. I go with that philosophy. You've been a manufacturer, make your own things. You buy what you can off the peg, whether it's buying Renault bits or Simca bits, as Matra does. It doesn't really matter. You produce a product that's your own. It's got your own stamp on it. John Rédélé, the founder of the Alpine company, is still revered, even though he died years ago. Who just put his name into the new Club Alpine Renault leaflet, because that's where we came from, that's where these came from, it's his concept. And I think that makes a difference. I like individuality, I like someone who's got the courage to go out and do his own thing. That's what I admire. Okay, Alpine, Rédélé did that. Okay.
The new Alpine is very much in the spirit of previous Renault Alpines. It's not a direct modern version of an old car. It is a new, properly engineered concept that is different from other modern cars, comes from a different standpoint. Aerodynamically, it is thought from first principles, just as the original car was, and it's very much in that spirit.
Okay. And do you agree as well?
I do.
Okay.
I'm very glad that they've tried to incorporate some of the characteristics of the old car without it being a clone. And from what I've read in the press here in France and Spain, they've got it exactly right. Fantastic.
Character, yes. very much so. I've only been a passenger in it so far. I went around, was taken around Goodwood in the last 10 days by a Frenchman in his new A110, but he wasn't hanging about. And never once did I have this feeling that it was unstable. Changing gears, even going around the corner, which is definitely not a good thing to do. He was doing that, and it just took it, just did it. I asked him in my broken French, have you actually managed to break away the rear of the car, and was it exciting? And he didn't really give me a straight answer, so I guess he probably has done it. Yes, it probably was exciting, but you need to learn to control it.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add from your side to what you're doing?
I'm appreciating working with you guys. I like what you're doing. You've always been keen, my company and I personally been keen to get involved with young people in their careers, and I recognise that both of you are starting out in your careers. I had people like me helping people like you when I was your age, and I was always grateful for that. And throughout my working life, I've met people who are way more knowledgeable than I was, and they gave me the time and helped me, trusted me, gave me a chance. That's something you need to be grateful for, and I'm very happy to do that for you guys. I think what we've done with these cars and the other people, my friends that you met, we're equally happy to help you along. I think we have been so far.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.